Alright, welcome back to the stream. We are back in X-Plane. Hey K-Sizzle, hello Swiss Game On and Pilot, welcome to the stream. We're going old school today. We are in the 737-200, and as you can see, early morning, the sun is just rising in East London. And we're going to do a VOR flight across to Cape Town. So no GPS, no fancy computers, no navigation. Just our radio beacons that we're going to be using. I have the flight plan in front of me here on my iPad, which I will probably put up on the iPad inside the plane as well anyway. But this is the Flyjsim 737-200, and it has a little checklist thing right here, which is really cool. You can actually go through and customize this if you put your own... You can put your own text in the text file just by editing it with a normal text editor, which is really cool. So let's get started. Right, so battery can come on, and we'll start up the APU. So 1, 2, 3 seconds. And we'll watch the temps for that come up. Right, then while that's happening, let's go and test our warnings. So we have our overspeed warning up here, which actually I just realized it's not going to happen until we engage the APU. So normally I start up on ground power, but we're not doing that here at East London. We're going to start up on the APU. So we'll wait for that to be ready. This light will go blue and we can click them on. Okay, but while we're doing that, we can turn on our passenger signs. This still has no smoking. Back when this aircraft flew, you could still smoke on planes. So we'll turn that off in the cruise and let our passengers go crazy. Right, so that temperature will go all the way up and it will start settling in a bit. We can also turn on our window heats, not that one. That's just our test and overheat, which is fine. Right, there we go. Our APU we can now take, and now everything will come to life. Right. So now that that's on, let's go and test these. So our overspeed warning and our stall warning. Nice and loud. Let me know if that's too loud. We were flying the 407, the Bell 407 last night, which was fairly soft. Okay, position lights can come on. We'll turn on the logo lights as well, and the wing lights, just because it's early morning, make us a little bit more visible. And our APU bleed we can bring on. Right, radios and transponders. We'll dial in our nav radios in a bit because we're going to follow the procedures. So we do have the SIVA INS in this aircraft, but we are not going to be using that on this flight. We're just doing VOR. So 1324, and that's on standby. That's perfect for now. Nav radios we will set shortly. Parking brake is set. Nice red light there. Right, next we can start up our engines, but before we do that, let's just sort out our briefing. So, as you can see, I was actually looking at East London here earlier. So these are our Navigraph charts. There are no departure procedures for East London, so we don't have anything fancy to follow on our way out here, which is fairly simple, but we do have arrival procedures that we'll follow when we get to Cape Town. So basically, if I go back and look at our somewhere in here, flight plans, and we are... I need to clear this folder out again. I do that every couple of weeks. This one. Right, so our departure runway is runway 11. Now, I just want to double check because here at East London, it has a knack of giving us the short runway, which is 2409. No, it is 06. I'm reading it upside down. So 11 will work fine. That is the longer runway. So that'll be perfect, 6,361 feet. Okay, so that'll work. The heading for that one is 109. So let's dial that in on our heading. Now, I'm going to use, this is a very basic autopilot. This is pretty much all we get. we have heading, and we can follow our VORs or our GPS if we use the Seaver. That's about it. There's no crazy vertical speeds or level change or anything. We've got an IAS and an altitude hold. I am going to use it fairly quickly because there's a lot to do in this plane, and obviously I'm just a single pilot on my own. So we will be using the autopilot. So I'm going to put that in. 109 will be perfect. Straight after departure, we'll follow that, and then we will turn. We are going out. So actually we'll turn. Let's fly over the ocean. So we'll turn out to the right, and then we'll intercept our first VOR, which I have down here, which is actually Port Elizabeth. And we are going on the radial 298. So let's dial that in over here already. 298 is our radial that we'll be flying to the Port Elizabeth VOR. Can join and help you. Yeah, you could. I don't have any dual cockpit add-ons, unfortunately. So one day we can do that. But at the moment we are single pilot in the 737. Okay, so 298 is there, and Port Elizabeth VOR is 112.9. So we're going to put that in down here. 129, that'll work. And hopefully we're going to be within range to pick that up straight off the bat. Otherwise, we might have to come up with another plan. I didn't actually check that that was going to be within range. It should be. It might actually be a little far. But we'll see how we go. As a backup plan, if we aren't managing with our VOR navigation, because it's been a long time since I've done purely VOR flying, because we are spoiled with FMCs and all the fancy gadgets in the new aircraft. So if all fails, we just follow the coastline, and eventually we'll get close enough to pick up those VORs. Okay, next thing we need to do, let's come down here and go back to our flight plan. And on the first page we will have our block fuel, so let's set that. Now, to be able to change this, we actually need to go here and open up our passenger and cargo doors so we can change our values. So our block fuel is 8,000, so we'll put 8,900 to be safe. We're currently at 78, so let's dial that up. 8959 is perfect. And our zero fuel weight, I've been flying British Airways flight plans, and zero fuel weight's at the top. On these ones, it's actually on the third page. So zero fuel weight 43.1, and we are currently 38. So let's put in some cargo, and we'll add in a few more passengers. What did we say? 43.1. So there's 42. I'm just kind of just doing this randomly. One more should be good. 43.1. That's all set. Fantastic. Okay. Then, now that our weights are set, we can calculate our takeoff. We'll do flaps 5. So we'll have those bugs set for us. So as you can see, no fancy screens. Here's our little analog fuel airspeed indicator, and our trim needs to be 4.51, so we'll put that kind of in the middle there. Right, then if we go back to our checklist, we've done all of that. Oh, did I do the emergency exit lights? No, I didn't. I think we are pretty much ready to go, or ready to start engines. Let me just double check. 139. Okay, that looks all good. Okay, fantastic. The other thing we need to put in is our cruise altitude, which I love to forget in this aircraft because it's this random little thing down at the bottom. And our cruise for today is 320. Now, there's no auto throttle on this aircraft either, so I'm going to have to be manually controlling our throttles the entire time as we go. Right. All of that is complete. We can now turn on our fuel pumps. Do we have fuel in the center tank? Just a little bit, so we'll turn on all of them. Right, let's call up our truck and push back. So remember, we are taking off. Should actually bring that up back here. We're taking off from runway 11, so we're going to push back to the right, taxi all the way down Alpha, and take off from there like so. So, cool thing in this aircraft is you go up here to the ground call button, which is this guy here. If we hold that down for a couple of seconds, it won't work. Okay, let's try it again.
Hey, Captain,
There we go.
you know where you want this
Obviously it didn't hold it down long enough. It actually brings up better pushback, which is a really neat little feature that they've added there. So we'll push ourselves back there onto the taxiway like that.
News, Captain. Your tow's coming.
We will wait for our tug to drive up. There it comes. Right, lots to do in this aircraft. There's no messing around. Thanks, K-Sizzle in the chat, as always, doing the things. Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in, as always. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday evening. You're not out partying, obviously, because of COVID. You've chosen to be here, which is awesome. Always appreciated. Right. We'll turn on these once we have the engine started up, but we can turn on the anti-collision light.
Right. Looks like the doors and hatches are closed and we're ready to connect.
Now, if I remember correctly, I think the 737-200s, I think they were some of the first aircraft, if not the first, to be painted in this South African Airways livery, which is quite cool. And there we are at the little East London Airport. This is the NMG scenery for East London. Okay, so he should lift our nose up now in a bit. Nice and hot here as always, so I'm going to be drinking a lot of water. There we go, nose is coming up.
Welcome aboard, Captain. Tow's connected, bypass pins inserted. Go and kill the parking brake when you're ready to go.
Right, I think I can move this out of the way now. Okay, so that can go over there for now. Let's jump back inside. Right, we'll release the parking brake so we can start the push.
Here comes the pushback. Light 'em up.
Double check that we're on the APU, which we are. And he's given us clearance to start the engine, so make sure the packs are off. Actually, we can just go through the checklist. So engine start checklist, beacons on, galley power is off, packs both off. Bleed, we have at least 30, that is 40 there, so 30 is there. We got more than enough bleed pressure. Engine bleed valves open, which they are. Let's go ahead and start up the outside engine first, which is going to be that guy. Then we're going to come down here, and we're going to watch our N2, which is this guy here. Wait for that to reach 20, which is about there. And we can bring in the fuel. These engines start up way faster than the newer ones, actually. So you'll see, well, there goes the cutoff already. But spools up pretty quickly. Once it gets into the green, it is stable, and we can go ahead and start the next one, which is about there. So nice and quick, and we'll start up engine 1. Pushback is just about done. And watching our N2, looking for 20. That's 20, so we'll bring in the fuel for engine 1.
Just about done here. Go ahead and set your parking brake.
Okay, so that's done.
And we're disconnecting the tow. Give me just a moment.
Right, so he's going to go ahead and disconnect. Let us quickly tune in for the ATIS.
Alpha Echo Lima Airport Information X-ray 1800 Zulu weather wind 059er at 8 visibility 10,000 sky clear temperature 23 dew point 21 QNH 1011
1011. Let's dial that in. That's fine. And we'll do that on this side as well because it's not automatic. Right, 1011. Okay, now that the engines are started, let's come up here.
Take it easy and have a safe flight.
And we'll swap over from the APU to the engines. No damper on, galley can come on, pitot heats can come on, packs can come on, APU bleed off, we don't need any more. Should have actually set this earlier. Need to double check that. Make sure that we are on the engines, which we are. APU can now come off. So let's quickly check. Can actually do it on the flight plan. Oh wait, I don't know if it's actually on these flight plans. I'm using the British Airways ones, which I used to not like, but I'm actually starting to enjoy them. Now I can't think of where it would be, so let me quickly just do that on active sky. So Cape Town altitude is 151, so we'll dial in 150 over there like so. Right, he's already gone, so he would have given us the hand signal. Let's turn these lights on and just double check that I haven't missed anything. I have those guys need to come on, and then we can take our flaps 1, 2, and 5 for takeoff. So anti-ice not required. Pitot heat is on. Flight instruments set for departure. We'll put our flight director to heading. Flight controls. Let's give those a check. Everything is free. Stabilizer trim set for takeoff. Speed brake check down. I had an issue on an earlier flight actually where that was up and I didn't notice until I took off. Kelly says, did it rain your side? Yeah, we had quite a big storm here. It stormed for about almost 2 hours. So it actually just passed before I started the stream. I was actually wondering if I was going to stream because of the storm. But it stopped about 40 minutes ago. So yeah, I had quite a bit of rain. Right, flaps set for takeoff, galley power is on, electrical, no lights, checked. Fuel heat is off, hydraulic pressure and quantity, that all looks good. We did turn our hydraulic pumps all on, that's cool. Everything here is in the green. No issues, no warning lights. Right, APU is off. We are set our pressures for cruise and for landing. Flight ground switch. Now I cannot find this anywhere. So if you know where the flight ground switch is, I've looked all over and I haven't been able to find the flight ground switch, and I also don't know what it does. Because I know, like, which aircraft, it's the Q400 has a flight ground switch right up here. And that does something with the spoilers. I cannot find the flight ground switch, so hopefully it's set to flight, because I don't know where it is. Okay, EPR, that is set. And it's normally 2.51, which it looks like it's set. That it gets set automatically for us when we set these. And it is 2.15, sorry, I said 5.1, baddie. Right, we are ready to go. Let's taxi out to runway 11. Okay, now this actually takes quite a bit of power to get moving, but once it's moving, it's fairly simple. Unlike the Airbus, which, and the CRJ actually, which just set off as soon as you release the brakes, even on idle. These old engines take a bit of encouraging to get the aircraft moving. So you'll see I'm going to be playing with the throttles a lot on this flight. Like I said earlier, no auto throttle, so It's manual control of the throttles 100% of the time, which makes it more interesting. That's why I'm enjoying going back to flying aircraft like this, flying the Concorde, because there's always stuff to do. The only thing that bugs me is the stutter. So with the SIVA INS, we have the same issue in the Concorde. When that's activated, I get stutters in the sim. And I did find fixes online for this aircraft, which I tried and they didn't work. So I need to go back and make sure I didn't miss anything. Let's also just turn our strobes on here to cross this runway. I need to go back and check that I did all the steps in the correct order and I didn't mess anything up, because it didn't work, but there's no fix for the Concorde, unfortunately. And that does kind of... It has stopped me from flying the Concorde because of those constant stutters. But anyway, now that we are flying with the VORs, we're not using the INS, we won't have that issue, so we'll be fine in that regard for this flight. Right, we're going to taxi all the way out along Alpha to runway 11. Okay, we passed the hold short point. Let's bring the strobes off. And possibly keep it on the taxiway center line if you could. Right, so straight after takeoff, we need to watch the speed, because there's no clear indications of when you put the flaps up. But we do have our maximum flap speeds down here. So we are flaps 5, which has a maximum speed of 225. But the takeoff instructions say flaps up by 200 knots. So we're kind of just going to raise them up as we're picking up speed. Make sure they're up by 200 knots. Right, just before we enter the runway, transponder will go on. Landing lights on. And then we'll obviously do all of that once we are done. So takeoff N1 97%, and then we climb at 92%. We'll go, actually that's a good point, let's set our IAS hold so long. I like to do 240, which gives me a bit of leeway to the 250 knot speed restriction, and once we pass 10,000 feet we'll bump that up to 280, and then as we climb higher, there is no Mach hold. We kind of once again have to do it manually because there's no auto throttle, but we'll adjust our throttles to maintain Mach 7.4. Right, so as we come onto the runway here, let's bring our lights on. So landing lights on, transponder to alt, and we can actually turn off these guys. The wing lights we don't really need. Okay, there's no RTO auto brake, so we're fine for that. That fuel warning is actually just the center fuel tank being drained, so we can turn off those pumps. So we literally just used the center fuel tank for taxi, and now we are using the others. Right, let's see if we can get our turn right here. A little bit early. East London doesn't have the longest runway. When you land here, it does, in real life, I mean, it feels like you're going to go off the end. Right, I think we are all good. Just double check, flaps are set. EPR is set, let's throttle up. Alright, brakes released. We'll go all the way up to that 2.15, which is about there. Right, watching our speed. Okay, airspeed is alive.
80 knots.
Is 80 knots. Right, there we go. We can bring the gear up. Okay, flaps can start coming up. Let's put the autopilot on. IS hold and heading hold. Gear to off. There's a lot to do. It's going to bring our vertical speed down a bit as we pick up speed to 240. And now we're coming through 215 knots. I'm going to start bringing the power back to our climb power of 91% N1. Or 92% N1. Which is about there. Okay, I said we'd turn right out over the ocean. So we shall do that. We are not picking up VOR for Port Elizabeth just yet. So we're going to fly along the coast. That's our markers, that's fine. We'll fly along the coast until we start picking it up. We'll see the distance here. So the briefing for East London says don't turn until we've crossed all of the built up areas. So it does feel like we are now over the ocean. So let's do our turn. And we're pretty much going back the way we came from. So we'll do about 280 should be good. And we are going to fly along the coast until we can pick up that Port Elizabeth VOR. Right, let's go through our checklist. So, seatbelts will turn off when we cross 10,000 feet. Anti-ice not required. Gear is up and off. Flaps up, no lights. Hydraulic pressure, everything looks in the green. And just double check that this is actually coming up, which it is. All good. And there we go, powering out of East London. Airport is over there. I think this is the best looking 737. Those sleek little engines are just super cool. Right, coming through 7,000 feet. We are going all the way up to 32,000 feet, so we can actually go to standard. Like so. Right, still not picking up Port Elizabeth VOR, so we're going to follow the coast until we get that reading. Right, you can hear the trim working. So that's, mind you, we're going to 298, so we actually do want to be inside of the coast. Our heading is actually fine for now. Let's also, oh there we just picked up the VOR, that's perfect. Okay, and our course is off to that side, so we'll stay on the heading that we're on now, that's perfect. And then we will intercept that course. So I'm going to flip this over to VOR, and that yellow line should tell me we want to turn that way. Yes, no. This the flight director is not the most advanced, as you can probably see. Yeah, it's not telling me a whole lot. Anyway, that's not too much of an issue. We'll keep an eye on this. So basically, when this needle is in the middle, that means we're flying on the desired course. Yeah, the plane looks really, really cool. And honestly, I prefer all the old gauges to all the new fancy computers and all of that. If I was flying for rail, I definitely appreciate all of the computers, because there's a hell of a lot more work to do here. Nothing's really done for you. But in terms of simulating, it's really cool to fly the older aircraft. Right, so we're actually fine for now. I'm just wondering why this isn't telling me. So heading, that's fine because we're flying the heading. But that should be wanting to turn to the left, but it doesn't. Okay, let's follow the coast. We'll do 270. In reality, this part of the, or probably round about now, oh, we've gone through 10,000 feet and I'm waffling and I didn't turn these off. What a baddie. Okay, so we can actually let everyone in the back smoke, because that's what you did. Back on these aircrafts. Me and Adele say hello. Middag. What's up, Darren and Adele? Thanks for tuning in. I forgot to message you and I forgot to post on WhatsApp because it was storming here just before I went live and I wasn't sure if I was going to actually make it in time. So, thanks for tuning in. We are going old school today. 737-200, check it out. Interesting thing about these aircraft is they actually had gravel kits, well, not the South African Airways ones, but they use them a lot for charters in, like, I don't want to say rural areas, but like difficult areas to get to. They use them still up in like Canada and places like that. They fit gravel kits to them, so you can actually land these 737s on dirt runways, which is very cool. So the gravel kits, they've got like special covers around the wheels to stop any gravel kicking up behind the plane, and they've got like special little, I don't know, devices in front of the engines to stop stones and things getting sucked in, which is quite cool. Baddie, Adele asks, are we there yet? No, we've actually just taken off in the last like 8 minutes or so. So we've got about... Actually, that's a good question. How long is our flight today? Oh, now I've got to try to remember where it is on these flight plans. Let's see if we can find it. Anyone seeing the flight time? I do not see it. Maybe... See, because I've been flying for British Airways now the last couple of days. And they use... There we go, block time, 2 hours and 2 minutes. Good for short landings and takeoffs. I mean, as good as a 737 can be, yeah. I mean, it's not a bush plane, but in terms of 737s, yeah. Thank you, Kelly, you're a champion. As we all know, I'm not good at social media. Now, I wonder, this doesn't seem right. Let me double check that I've got the correct 1129. And I've got 1129. And it's set. Let's just double check. 1129, do we have the same distance there? Yeah, we do. But it's not... it's obviously just the angle that it wants us to fly at. Did you share on the groups? I definitely did not. Yeah, if you want to, go for it. Let's get everyone watching when I'm confused as to why this isn't working. Okay, let me actually double check something. So we have a heading of 298. Let's see if SkyVector agrees. So SkyVector says we should be flying, geez, not 298, 273. Let's see if that gives us... Aha! That makes a lot more sense. Right, so I wondered about that. let's get our autopilot to follow that VOR radial. Okay, so I'm going to use the Sky Vector radials then, because, see, I think this, maybe this isn't even the right thing that I'm reading. See, I thought it should be in this part of the flight plan. So I read something here somewhere, but the Sky Vector one's going to be right. So that actually does prove my point from earlier, that I thought I would have to use Sky Vector, which is why I have it in front of me here on my iPad. So, what I like to do is, our next radial is 304, so I like to set that on course 2, so that I have it there as a reminder when we need to switch over to the next beacon. Okay, Mach 0.62, so we're coming along nicely. Normally around, we're at 280, so normally around flight level 290. We'll have to start backing off the speed to keep that Mach 7.4 in the climb. We are going up to flight level 320 on this flight. Right. What else do I need to double check? Nothing at this point, I think. So obviously with the sun rising, we'll be flying away from the sun all the way down to Cape Town. And this 737 still has the eyebrow windows, which is really cool. How old is this plane? Very. Let me check for you. So this is actually the second in the 737 range. The first being the 737-100. They only built a few of those. I think it was like 12. I was reading about this the other day. So 737-200 entered service April 1968. So fairly old. So there we go. Only 30 737-100s were produced. And the airlines, it launched with Lufthansa in 1965. That was the 737-100, I believe. And then they asked for more passengers. So the 737-100 only seated 85, and the 200, which is what we're flying, was 100. And Lufthansa launched the first one with an order of 21 aircraft, and then said they wanted more seats, and that's when they developed this version, the 737-200. Are there any still flying today privately? Yes, there are. So there are a couple. They don't fly for airlines anymore. I think they're all charter. Although, actually, the Canadian, it might be airlines that use them in Canada. But I know they fly them into some of the remote strips in Canada. And there's actually, up until a few years ago, I don't know if it's still flying, but there was one in South Africa that was still flying. It flies for Exaro. They do charters and stuff for all the mining companies. And I know, like, 3 or 4 years ago it was still flying. I don't know if it still is in South Africa. But Oh, there we go. Peruvian Air Force is still flying them. When was this written? 2020. There we go. Peruvian Air Force is still flying 2 of them. Indian Air Force. There we go. Nolinor Aviation in Canada is a charter airline. So technically an airline, but they do charters. They're flying them around in Canada. Technically, then a plane can last forever if you service and overhaul them. Yes. The only thing is, for the airlines, they get too expensive to operate because what happens is the newer aircraft, obviously the newer 737s carry more passengers and they're more fuel efficient. So you could keep flying this forever, but then you aren't as competitive against your rival airlines who are flying more efficient aircraft so they can charge less. So the planes can still work. It's a matter of being competitive, though. I mean, if you take SAA's A340s, those were supposed to be phased out like 10, 12 years ago. Also, I just noticed my green screen isn't lit perfectly from behind because I rushed my setup. SAA's A340s were supposed to be phased out several years ago, and they haven't. Nothing wrong with the aircraft, but it means that they aren't as efficient as they should be, so they lose money on those routes. And, of course, things like parts and stuff will be difficult to come by. I guess with the 737, the fact that it is... I don't know if it's the first or the second. It's one of the two most produced airliners in history. Maybe you'll have a better chance with parts than, you know, something more random and obscure that they only made like 50 of. I read somewhere, I think it was like every 20 seconds, somewhere in the world, a 737 of some variant takes off or lands. Every 20 seconds in the world. I don't know how accurate that is, but I mean, it sounds about right. There are thousands of these things all over. Right. So, when this switches over... I just put my iPad away like a baddie. When that switches to about 2, that means we're getting close to the VOR. We need to switch over to the next frequency and the next course. I've got the next course, 304, but the next frequency is... so we're going to PE at the moment. The next VOR station is George, 1166. So let's dial that in there, 116.6, and we can flip that over. I like to put them on both sides just for safety. So once this is our distance to the VOR station, and once that reaches about 2, we'll flip over our nav radio to George's VOR, and we'll dial our course in to 304. We are off. See you on the next one. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Have a great evening, and I will see you guys next week. Or on the next stream tomorrow. Right. Almost finished my order already. Obviously talking too much. If I stay in this view in the cockpit, you can't see my bad green screen key, so... when I do this and the water's behind it, you can see in the corner there. It's not great. Right, what's our altitude? 28, flight level 280. So as this comes to 74, we'll start dialing this back to maintain 0.74. Right. 33 miles to go to Port Elizabeth. Bit windy. You can see us crabbing. Ah, there you can actually see PE down there. There's the runway. Nice crosswind. Oh, it's nice and peaceful. Maybe I'll just stay in this view, watch us all the way to Cape Town. I don't have to listen to the noise. Or you can really see my green screen's bad when I look at that. Back into the noisy cockpit. Didn't actually look at the levels. How loud is it? A little bit loud. Right. 7-3 coming up. Did I turn off the seatbelts? Yeah. So this is the old school way. This is how they used to fly, just using these VRR stations all across the country. Oh, nice little bit of cloud up here at 29,000 feet. Right, just about 20 miles to go. This is the thing, it's like, it's not much more difficult to fly, I guess, than having all the computers. It's just that if we were in the 800 now, or if we're in an Airbus or something, we'd just be chilling, because the computer will take care of all these navigational and speed changes and all of that. But now we got to keep our eye, got to make sure I'm keeping an eye on the speed, got to keep an eye on that distance, and keep an eye on that needle, make sure everything is lined up. Got to keep an eye here on our EPR. We don't want to overstress the engine, so we're looking at these gauges. We got to watch our fuel, because that's just in these little gauges here. So, a bit more to keep an eye on. It's not just the computer handling everything for us. Right, we're coming up to Mach 7.4 shortly. So we can actually just dial this back a little bit. That'll get the aircraft to pitch up. And we'll bring our Mach number down so we stay around Mach 7.4. The other thing I haven't figured out in this aircraft is we have two nav radios. And obviously nav 2 goes to the first officer's side. I don't know. Well, I haven't found a way to switch the autopilot over to feed from his nav radio. It always follows nav 1, and there must be a switch somewhere to be able to change that. I just haven't found it. Maybe there isn't. Maybe the autopilot could only follow one side? I don't know. I feel like there must be a switch somewhere that I'm missing that would allow the autopilot to switch. But I haven't found anything. So maybe I'm just a baddie. Okay, coming up to 8. That's coming up. We're almost 30,500. Just managing our speed, keeping it around Mach 7.4. Right, let's match our heading to where we are now. Because we'll flip it over into heading mode and then set up our next nav beacon, our next VOR station with our course. See, because what I would do at this point in the Concorde is just set up that George VOR on nav 2 and then just flip between nav 1 and 2 so that I don't have to kind of have that gap in between where we're not really following our navigational beacons. There we go, that's just flipped over. So let's go into heading mode. Let's dial this course up to 304 and flip over to that next frequency. So we're 1166 there, 1166 there. And let's go back into VOR lock and let that intercept that new radial. Yeah, that I didn't want it actually to turn that hectically in that direction. So I was a little bit too quick on the draw there to switch over. These are the kind of things that you just forget with not flying this type of navigation for so long. Okay, let's double check our navigation. So 304, 1166, cool. Now this is working. Okay, so we'll stay on a very slight intercept course there, and we'll wait for that needle to come in. And then when that starts moving, that's why I bring this flight director up. So as that starts leveling out, once it gets to the point where it doesn't want to turn us to the left, because we actually need to go to the right, that's where our course is pointing. When that kind of levels out, I'll flip over to the VOR mode on the autopilot. Okay, speed. We can bring the speed down a little bit. And that should bump our vertical speed up just enough. That little horn that you heard was telling us we had 1,000 feet left to go before we reach our cruise altitude that we've set, which today is 32,000 feet. So we are getting close. There's our own contrail, which sometimes appears ahead of us, which is a little glitch. Maverick calls it the Tic Tacs, the aliens. Right. Speed looking good. They were intercepting, so now we need to control our throttle, because as we level off, we're going to have to start throttling back, or we're going to speed up significantly. So altitude hold is engaged. We are still in heading mode as this is coming, as this is kind of leveling out. So all good. We want that speed around Mach 7.4. Once again, no auto throttle in this aircraft, so we're going to do it all manually. So I have realized earlier that around 182 should keep us around 7.4, although on those flights my aircraft was significantly heavier, so it could very well still accelerate at 182. So we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, we're at our cruise altitude. Now slowly heading towards that intercept. What is that weird little line over there? Oh, it's just dirt on the windshield. Right, so we have 135 miles to go to George. From George, we are going to the Caledon VOR. So let's actually put those frequencies in. So Caledon is 1149, so we'll now put that on this side. And our heading there, or our course, is George to Caledon 307. So not a huge change on that leg of the flight. Then from there we're going to the Cape Town VOR. So from George to Caledon is another 144 miles. So this leg is the longest that we're on now, 161. It's another 144 from George to Caledon, and from there to Cape Town another 44 and a half. Why is this light on? Our stabilizer looks fine. Interesting. And I do know it comes on every time you trim, but we're not trimming at the moment. And it doesn't... I mean, we're still in the... I mean, the green is just to do a takeoff in any case. It shouldn't really be complaining. Not sure why it's on. Can't cancel it. Our speed is slowly coming down, so let's bump up to 185, should be good. And then we also need to think about landing in Cape Town. So we can close all of these East London charts now. And let's do Cape Town. Right, which runway? Let's go back here and have a look and see. So 19 in Cape Town is the runway we're landing on. So we'll do arrival. Now, these are all RNAV arrivals, if I remember correctly. Let's just double check. Oh, it doesn't actually say RNAV, so maybe we could do one of these. Yeah, they've got all of the information. So we wouldn't do Addons, we would do this one. I just can't remember which one goes into runway 19. It is this one. But you see, we aren't able to do this because we don't have that point there. I thought these were all RNAV stars. That's interesting. Oh, you see, we could do this. Hey, we're not going to start at the right point, though. That's not really necessary. I think we should just go straight in for the... That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. For this guy. So ILS, we'll do this one. I was looking at the wrong runway. We're going this way. See, I don't really want to do this whole teardrop thing. It's a bit unnecessary. So let's have a look. What was I looking for? These ones. So we would be this guy. See, if I can get onto that radial like they explain. So here, CTV radial 120. We could do that. Because that's, yeah, that's there. So we can get onto that 120 radial. And then follow this procedure. At 8 DME, we turn right to 010. And that would be radar vectors, so we kind of just vector ourselves. I think we'll do that. Just keep an eye speed-wise. We're dropping a little bit, so let's bump it up. Let's do 188. And distance-wise, 102, so no issues there. Right. Yeah, we'll intercept that. What was our radial from Caledon? See, it's actually our 120 radial would be that way, so the reciprocal of that is 300. It's actually right there. So we'll do 300 to CTV, to the Cape Town VOR. We'll obey these speeds. Do they have any altitude restrictions? They don't. So these are at 8,000 feet. So we'd want to be about above 10,000 feet up there. They don't have a MSA anywhere. Oh, there we go. So 97, 7, 8. We'll make sure we're above 10,000 feet or so there. So generally in this aircraft, I start the descent around 100 miles from our destination. So we'll dial in the Cape Town VOR, and once we're about 100 miles from there, we'll start our descent. That should put us pretty chilled in terms of this terrain, so we should be fine for that. But we'll make sure that we don't descend below 10,000 until we reach that 8. Mind you, it can be after that, so probably about 10 DME. We won't do less than 10,000. They do have an MSA here of 7,300. So we should be fine as long as we're above that. Okay. I think that's going to be our plan for our arrivals. Yeah, so all the way from Caledon. So Caledon to Cape Town had us at 317. So we'll change that to 300, which means we'll have to fly south a little bit, but then we'll intercept that 300 radial to Cape Town and do that all the way in. Make sure at 30 DME we are 250 knots or less, 8 DME we are 210 knots or less, and we turn right 010, and we'll vector ourselves in onto the ILS. Right, that is the plan for our arrival. Gee, look at the clouds all the way up here. Oh, there is a cold front moving into Cape Town, which is supposed to hit tomorrow morning, so we're probably seeing all of this weather because of that. Let me actually have a look just here on my iPad at Windy and see if we have any significant weather to worry about in Cape Town. I'm actually going to check Active Sky as well, and it says Cape Town is completely clear. Pressure 1008, so QNH 1008, winds 1805 knots, 18 degrees Celsius. No clouds whatsoever. So the front obviously hasn't hit yet, otherwise it would be cloudy. So let's look at clouds. Yeah, the clouds are still off the coast of Cape Town, so we should be fine there. In terms of visibility, no issues in Cape Town. Cool. So we're good with weather all the way down to Cape Town, although there are quite a few clouds up here. Right, otherwise we are looking good. 70 miles to go. Whoops. See, now I've been distracted doing other stuff. I forgot to actually intercept that radial. What a baddie. See, this is what happens when you get so used to flying the aircraft with all the fancy computers that do all of this stuff for you. I didn't even think about it, and we've gone straight past that radial. Gotta concentrate more. Anyway, okay, so we need to keep an eye on that. How's the speed looking? We're a little fast. Let's bring it down just a couple of clicks there. 185 should be cool. That should slowly come down to around Mach 7.4. Right, 64 miles to go. Not on our radial because I'm a potato. I don't understand why this light is still on. Okay, do we have everything dialed in? We've got 1049 ready to swap over. That's perfect. And our course of 307. Now, I said our course wasn't going to change very much, but because we've missed our radial, we might be on the wrong radial when we actually arrive there. So maybe our course will change quite significantly just because I wasn't concentrating. Well, I was concentrating. I was just concentrating on the arrival and approach and not on currently flying the aircraft. We still Mach 7.5, which is a little fast. Let's bring it down to 182 so we can bring that speed down a little bit more. I've got to just keep paying attention. Paying attention, he says, as he picks up his phone to look at some message that I got. Right, 50 miles to go. Right. That course needle, I don't even know if it's moving. So I think we've gone quite far off of our radial, so we might not ever actually catch it up. Is it moving? I don't think it is. We might not actually catch that up before. Mind you, we are on an intercept, so we should get there just before where are we going? George. The George VOR, which should actually be down there somewhere. So what I do want to keep an eye on is that guy. When that kind of levels out, then we can switch over to our VOR navigation mode on the autopilot. Right, fuel looks good. Engines are looking good. Speed is coming down to around 7.4, which is great. Distance 0.42 miles to go. Other than that, all the other gauges in the green. Temperatures, pressures, good. No issues. But less of a crosswind now. See, the contrails are actually staying pretty much straight behind the plane, so less crosswind at the moment. Ah, there we go, that needle's moving. I just pointed to the screen like you could see that. This needle this needle's starting to move. There we go, our flight director is reacting. As that starts to level out, we can switch over. And we're still 30-ish miles out, so we'll be on the right radial when we reach George, which is good news. So basically that yellow line, that's the flight director. That's telling me where the aircraft wants to go. So if I was to switch over to the autopilot now, well, I have the autopilot, but it's following my heading. If I was to switch over, because I've got the flight director set to VOR, if I was to switch over to VOR, that's what the plane would do. And I don't want to turn to the right because our course is to the left. So I'm going to wait for this to level out like that. And then we don't have that wild swing to the right and then back to the left to intercept that course. So that's why I've done that. Just set my heading to match 304, just in case we need to take manual control over that for some reason, which we will in any case when we switch over to our next beacon. Right, yo, we've been streaming for an hour and 15 minutes. Like, because I'm always thinking about things and looking at different things in the aircraft, these flights go by so much quicker. Like, to me, it feels like we've just started still, and we're already over halfway to our destination. Okay, just adjusting my throttle a little bit. We'll go up to 184. Keep seeing this light. Don't know why it's on. Can't cancel it with any of these. No. Our stabilizer isn't doing anything. Why is that light on? I've never had that light on constantly before, so it does come on when the aircraft's trimming, but it's not doing that at the moment. So that's a new one for me. Right, we are back on course. 22 miles to go to George. Need to fix my green screen. That's just the lighting. You can see the top corners there somewhere. I just need to re-aim those lights. I must have moved it after I turned it on. Normally I check that before the stream starts, but today with the storm and just making it in time to go live, I didn't actually double check that like a baddie. And it just so happens that where the that corner is makes it really obvious. Okay, 14 miles to go. Okay, perfectly on course now. So George, we should be able to see just below us and just ahead of us. Obviously we can't because of the clouds, but it's down there somewhere. Okay, we're into single digits, so we'll keep an eye on this. When the needle swings all the way around, that means we're passing just about over the VOR, and that's when we'll switch into heading mode and switch our frequencies over to Caledon. Let's double check, make sure I've got the right frequency. Caledon is 1149, 1149, 1149. Perfect. I don't know what that was. Okay, we're getting pretty close. Let's go into heading mode. And then we'll go course 307. And I'll flip this one over, but I'm going to wait to flip this one until that needle swings around so we know right over it. So there we go, coming up to it now. It should flip fairly soon. There we go. And now we can switch these over and get ourselves back onto that course. Right, so once again, watching this, we can actually do a little bit more of an angle here. 290 should be good. And when that starts to level out and that line gets close, we'll flip back over to our VOR. Okay, speed. We can bring it up a little bit, so do 187. Right, what I'm actually going to do, so Cape Town VOR 11570. This reading over here is our nav 2. So I want to put that in. Ah, that's why we're struggling, because we aren't actually picking up the Caledon VOR. So I don't actually want to do this hectic intercept. Let's actually get back onto 307. I should have noticed that earlier. We're too far to actually pick it up, so we want to fly towards it. And hopefully we can actually pick that up. I don't know what this is pointing at. What have I got that set to? 1159. Oh, did I just... Oh, 1157 is Cape Town. So that... Gee, we're picking up Cape Town's VOR already at 171 miles. We're not picking up Caledon, which is closer. So obviously there's mountains in the way, which is very possible, looking at the area we're in. Or the signal strength from that beacon just isn't strong enough. So maybe let's go straight onto the 300-degree radial for Cape Town. That's perfect. We'll do 310. And then we can bypass the Caledon VOR completely and just go straight into Cape Town. That puts us on that radial, on this radial here, so we can come in and then we just look for these measurements. So 30 DME, that's our first speed point. And at 100 miles on here, we'll start our descent. That's actually perfect. I'm actually just an idiot because I didn't set Cape Town's VOR on this side. So 1157. And we're going the wrong side because I had the wrong one tuned. So as you can see, I've got a bit of practice to do to get back into this type of old school flying, well, old school navigation. Okay, there we go. Now we're intercepting that radial. Speed 74, perfect. Feel looking good. We're watching this guy. Distance 159. So I actually want to put, what was Caledon? Wrong one. 1149. I want to put that back here. See if we ever pick that up. So if we get a reading there, we'll see how far out we can actually pick up that beacon. Because I'm just interested to see. Kelly, you're going to be off. Thank you so much for joining in. Sleep well, and we'll see you again tomorrow on the next one. Right, that line is coming closer. So we'll keep an eye on this guy. When it levels up, we'll switch over. Okay, we are speeding up a little bit. Let's go back to 185. Right there, that's starting to come down nicely. Okay, so speed, we can actually maybe bring it down even a little bit more. 183, feels still looking good. Okay, that's just about to go level. Actually switch the weather radar on. We're not expecting anything bad in any case. Possibly just going to pick up the mountains anyway. Okay, I feel like this thing is broken. Yep. There we go. Let's intercept that radial. And that'll take us all the way into Cape Town. So next thing we need to look out for is 100 miles over there. That's when we will start our descent. And then after that, on here it is 30 DME. Yeah, so 30 DME we need to be at 250 knots. And 8 DME we start our turn and we must be 210 or less. Right, let's set our heading over to match like so. Okay, speed, still speeding up a little bit. Obviously we're burning off fuel as we go, so we're getting lighter, so we need less power. So we'll bring it back to 181. We're still around 7 FAL, so not an issue. Bit of a crosswind again. See, we're kind of crabbing into it, and there goes our contrail off to the left. So I think what was happening earlier is we were actually just flying perfectly into the wind. Okay, 124 miles from Cape Town. So let's have a look at our descent. So we'll turn on the seatbelt signs, 15,000 feet. Anti-ice we don't need. Landing lights, 10,000 feet. Altimeters we'll set when we get a bit lower. Radio altimeter is set to 200, which is our minimums. Flight instruments we will set when we start our descent. We will set our bugs for landing. And hydraulic, all of our pressures and quantities look good. Pressurization, that all looks good. We don't have an altitude horn. Our cabin is level at, what is that? 6,000? That is all fine. Dave. Right, one thing we can do is we'll set our auto brake. We will use, minimum will be fine for this flight. Otherwise this is all set. It is working, you just got to be a bit patient. Don't upset it now, Dave. You've literally sent 2 messages and you're already hating on Nightbot. That's when you get banned. Right. Okay. The ILS for Cape Town 19 is 109.1. So let's put that on our secondary frequency so that we're ready to switch over to that when we get onto the ILS. So 109.1. And we'll put that on both sides out of habit. Did you set it slow for it? No, I think it's just because I don't have a, what do you call it, verified channel or monetized channel or whatever. I think it gives preference to real streamers. So mine, it just takes a while. But welcome to the stream. We are 9 miles from our descent into Cape Town. We are flying the old school 737-200. No GPS, no computers, just radio navigation. What was the year I said? I think it was 1964 these were introduced into service. And I think they were the first aircraft in South Africa to have this new South African Airways livery. That flag's backwards, that's awkward. Let's look at it from this side, that's better. Alright, I think it's almost time to start our descent. So, that is set. Minimums, not there. Minimums is set. And we have our radio programmed. It was snaking around a little bit trying to intercept it, but that's most likely because of the wind. So every now and then resetting these seems to make the aircraft reconsider its life decisions. Right, there we go at 100 miles. So let's dial this down. We don't want to descend below 10,000 because of the terrain. We'll put it into IAS and bring the throttles all the way back to idle, and it will descend nice and evenly for us, maintaining 263-ish knots. Right, we didn't ever pick up Caledon, so obviously that VR is not working. Or possibly it doesn't exist in X-Plane. That's also something I didn't consider. Oh, it's right there. So it does exist. 1149. No idea then. But we never ever picked it up. When are you flying to Gqeberha? I think that's how you say it. We flew over there actually. Or Gqeberha. Gqeberha? Something like that. We flew over, we just departed from East London, so we went over that way. But we can do that sometime. I'm not going to put that. I don't think the aircraft will... Is it updated in the game? No, I was just going to say it's not updated in the game or the aircraft. It'll be a long time. I mean, if you take East London Airport, that's been changed, and it's not updated anyway. Even like in the real world, airline operations, it's still called East London Airport. So, yeah, I think that'll be a while before that gets changed. See, in the with the airlines and with the aircraft, they use codes more than anything else. So like the code is FAPE. So unless they actually change that code for the airport, it'll probably just stay the same. So like Oratambo, when they changed it from Jan Smuts to Oratambo, the airline or the airport code changed from FAJS to FAOR, and then all the databases in the world had to be updated. But every month, an update to the database is published anyway with changes to any airports, airways, frequencies, all of that stuff. So it's not actually a huge thing. It just gets put into the database, and each month all of those are updated on the aircraft and all the systems. So it's not a huge deal. But they would actually have to officially change the code and the name of the airport with the international organization that does all of that, which I'm sure costs money, I guess. I don't know. So we'll see. I mean, what would they make the code? So all South African airports start with FA. So what would it be? FAQH? GQ? No idea. But we shall see. I don't know if it'll get changed. If it does, it'll probably still be a while anyway. Right, otherwise we are looking good. So we need to be at 250 knots by 30 DME. So we are currently 78 DME. Why does this line keep coming on? Freaks me out. Does it have to have 4 letters? Yeah, so all the ICAO codes, the ICAO. It's interesting, there's 2 main organizations that deal with all of the standardization for airlines and air travel. It's ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Authority, and IATA, which is the International Airline Air Traffic something. And all the ICAO codes are 4 letters, and that's what the airlines and the aircraft use. And all of the IATA codes are 3 letters, and that's what the airports use for the passengers. So when you go get your little when you get your little boarding pass and your little sticker that goes in your bag, it'll say ORT for Oratambo. That's the IATA standard, but the aircraft themselves use the ICAO one, which is 4 letters. Are there any that make a word? Yeah, there are. So, like, George? Trying to think of what else. There's one... There was a whole list, and now I can't think of any of them off the top of my head. The 3-letter ones that the passengers use are quite funny. There's an airport in the US called Dixon, which is IATA code. It's just that. Oh, there's one in Northern Africa which is just full. That's in the DRC or in Gabon or something. I think the most interesting though are the... Yeah, there we go. So FAP is Polokwane. And PS is... Geez, where is that? FAPS. I'm normally quite good at knowing these. No, I can't remember that one. Oh, Poch. There we go. I think more interesting though is the airline call signs. So most people don't know this, but every single airline has a call sign that they use when they speak to air traffic control. So for example, South African Airways actually has quite a cool one. So SAA is Springbok. So if your flight number is 123, every time the pilots are speaking to air traffic control, they'll say Springbok 123. And all airlines have different call signs. Like some of them are pretty boring. Like Emirates is just Emirates. But British Airways has the coolest one. So British Airways is always Speedbird. That's their call sign. There's some really cool ones out there. The Irish airline, which is Aer Lingus, is Shamrock, which is quite cool. I'm trying to think of other cool ones. There's a whole bunch of interesting ones in the US, like Redwood and Brickyard and Republic, I think. Yeah, FANS, that's Nelspruit. FANG, I don't know. And fact is Cape Town, that's where we're going to be landing. Okay, actually I think we should level off here at 15,000. Just for terrain reasons. Ngala, okay. That's a tiny little private airstrip up near Kruger, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Ngala is a private game reserve. I think it's part of the Greater Kruger. So there's tons of tiny little private airstrips for those reserves around the Kruger Park. Right, so we need to make sure at 30 DME we are less than 250 knots. Yeah, so every country, all of the airports start with a specific 2 letters. So yeah, Africa, it's all Fs. And South Africa specifically is FA. So Namibia, FY, etc., etc. If you go to like England, they're all EG. New Zealand is all NZ. Australia is all YP for some reason. F's in chat for South Africa, yeah. Right, we should be in the photo scenery area. We are, which is good. Coming over the mountains into Cape Town. A little bit of cloud, but nothing over the airport, which is good. Turkeys. What about turkeys? Oh, yeah, I haven't been hunting for a while actually. I did play for a few minutes the other day, but not on stream. You always ask for that, Dave. You obviously enjoy the hunting. You should get the game, then you can come jam with me on stream. You can play multiplayer. Although, having said that, we have tried multiplayer on it 3 times and it's failed every single time. I have a 10-year-old GPU. That game, it's surprisingly taxing on the GPU. I found it is the game that my stream struggles the most with somehow. Like it plays new flight sim, no issue. I can run it on stream. I mean, I'm getting like just 30 FPS, but that Call of the Wild, it runs perfectly on my computer, 100 FPS. But on the stream, it just doesn't. It doesn't stream smoothly for some reason. Okay, we're a little bit over our speed, so 30 DME we should have been at 250, which is a little bit naughty. Let's actually bring this down 245. Let's go. We want to go down to 3,000 feet. We'll go IIS. Let's bring the power off. I only have a 2 GB card. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know if it'll run Call of the Wild. But you were playing, what's that boring game that just came out? Cyberpunk. Mind you, you did say your card was struggling with Cyberpunk, but I mean... But I will make a plan to do some more hunting on a stream coming up. Just for you, Dave. We landed on water for you and you weren't there. We did something else that I can't remember. launched it in my PC blue screen. Well, Dave, maybe you should upgrade your PC. You didn't pay for it. Okay, well that makes a lot of sense now. Maybe it's time to upgrade your PC? Oh yeah, but you're having a kid. You can't be thinking about things like PCs. You're not even going to be able to look at that anyway, so best not waste money on it. You need to buy more important things. Right, we can bring the... Yeah, no, I can see that not being an acceptable expense at this stage. You've missed your opportunity for sure. Right, now I feel like we're a bit high actually. At 8 DME we need to be max 210 knots. Let's bring the speed down. There's 210 there. Which means we can bring in the flaps. So we can go flaps 2 at 230 and flaps 5 at 225. And at 8 DME, we're turning to 010. Let's dial that in so long. There we can go flaps 2. We can go flaps 5. And then 8 DME, we turn right 010. We got that dialed in, so we are good to go. Should be able to see the airport ahead of us. There it is there. We're going to go up and around these mountains and come in and land runway 19. We are currently 12 DME. Right, runway heading. Won't be on this chart. It will be on this one. And it is 189. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is just arm the spoilers for when we land. Auto brake is armed. Flaps, we've got 5 indicating. Okay, there's 9 DME, so at 8 we'll make our right turn. And then normally we would be vectored in by ATC, but because we're flying offline, we will vector ourselves. Right, there's 8 DME, so let's go over to heading. And then that was 189. Let's set our courses to match that. Like so. And frequency 1091. Let's make sure that's on both navs. 1091 and 1091. Try sneak GCX 3060 or something on the baby shower list. Yeah, good luck with that, Dave. Okay, we should have actually put these on when we passed 10,000 feet, but we were baddies. Right, 10 degrees of flaps, we can do at 210 knots. So let's bring ourselves down to 200. And then we can put in an extra notch of flaps. Vector ourselves around the mountain. And we will come into land. Trim is going mad. See, that light should be off like that. That makes me happy. I wonder if it's just to do with takeoff, because now that we're in the green, it seems to be happy. Right, the other thing we should do, why am I panning the screen that way, is just go here. Landing, we will do a flaps 30 landing, VRF 137. Let's set that on the bugs. That's done. Go through our checklist. No smoking sign is on, spoilers armed, auto brakes armed, minimum. Gear we will put down, flaps we will put down as we get closer. Okay, max 180 on the localizer. Okay, so 10 DME max 180 knots, a 5.4 DME max 150. We are not yet on the localizer, so we'll sort that out once we get there. Let's vector ourselves around this hill. What's our altitude looking like? 5,000, so we will be good. Church. And those little churches pop up everywhere. Okay, so that horn means 1,000 feet from our altitude that we have set down here. Just to give us a warning, because once we level off, we need to manage the throttles and add power, which I'm already going to start doing to slow down our rate of descent. Right, let's bring ourselves around to intercept our ILS. Okay, flaps 15 we can do at 195 knots. We need to be around or less than 180 till 10 DME. So let's do flaps 15. Might actually be a little close to these hills. Probably should have left the turn until a little later. Right, there's the airport over there. Okay, then our other speed restriction is 150 knots till 5.4 DME. Okay, you know what we're actually going to do? We're going to hand fly this because we can. A little bit bumpy there over those mountains, I guess. Okay, we are quite high. Let's bring the gear down. We are 60 ME, so we can start slowing down to our final approach speed. We are significantly high. Flaps 25 we can do at 190, we're at 160. Flaps 30 at 185, we're at 160, so we'll go flaps 30. Let's get ourselves back onto the glide slope. I really like the cockpit sounds in this aircraft. You can see as I'm moving the controls, the little clicks. It's all just cables that are connecting these together, so there's lots of mechanical clicks as I'm moving stuff, which is awesome. Okay, we're still a little high on the glide slope, but we are looking much better. I do need to switch these lights on. Okay, there we go. We're back on the glide slope now. So let's add a bit of power because we are not descending so fast anymore. Okay, there's 1,000 feet. Our minimum is 200, and that is set, so we are good. Okay, the puppy lights are saying we're a little low. Okay, we are a little low on the glide slope as well. That's a bit better. Now, I don't know if this is a feature of the aircraft or if it's a mistake, but the controls on this feel quite like smushy is kind of the only way really to describe it. However, I do really like hand flying this. Okay, I'm pretty bad at landing this so far because of the smushy controls. So we shall see how this goes. Yeah, there's minimum, so continue. Let's see if we can put it down without thundering into the runway and plowing a new one. That was pretty good. Okay, we'll go reverse. And we have to check out those bucket reverses. Check at that. That's super cool. So it's literally just got these little buckets that fold out behind the engines to do the reverse thrust. Love that. Okay, there's 70 knots, so we'll go idle reverse and And manual braking. Let's see if we can take this taxiway here. Which one is this? I think this is Charlie. Right, that was a pretty successful landing. That's my best landing by a long way in this aircraft. But I've only done, this is like my third flight, so I'm getting used to how it flies on final approach. Right, now that we are exiting the runway, we can ditch the spoilers. That's not going to work. We can take those off. Oops, slowing down a bit much. Strobes can come off. Flaps can come up. And we'll start the APU. 1, 2, 3. Temps coming up. Right. Off the landing checklist, window heats. Those can come off. Spoilers. Oh, sorry, wrong one. Anti-ice wasn't on. Pitot heat can come off. Flaps are up. Radar and transponder. So radar off, like so. Transponder back to standby, like so. Speed brakes are down. Let's double check. Yes, they are. Galley power can come off. Sorry, no more coffee. Flight ground switch. I still don't know where that is. So I can't. It's going to be on, hopefully on flight, I guess. I don't know. But I cannot find the flight ground switch anywhere. Then APU, we have started and we'll switch it onto the bus once it's stabilized. Or actually, it looks like it is stable. Yeah, it is. We'll do that as we enter the gate. Right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to... Where the hell are we? Cape Town International. Tills forward in 1080p. Actually, my camera's doing 4K. It's just being downscaled to 1080 on the stream, so... It's my full hat. I'm not wearing my hat because last night it was hurting me. It's because of this massive brain. The hat was restricting it, so I ditched the hat for a while. So yes, you can look at my forehead in 4K downscaled to 1080 on the stream. Right, but we are safely here in Cape Town in our retro 737. Need to stop shopping in the kids section. So explain this to me, Dave. Obviously you can adjust the size of hats, like I know that, I'm not an idiot. But my hat was fine before, and then I had a haircut, and now it's too small. Like when I had more hair at the back, it should have been bigger, right? Because I have more hair. But now that I've had a haircut, my hat doesn't fit. These are the things that puzzle me. My cap says one size fits most. I don't know why, but I read that as my car. It says one size fits most. Big brain. Right, I'm feeding gate 7. Gate 7 sounds perfect to me. Maybe that would fit you. I mean, my hat is adjustable. I do need to just adjust the size. But I was a bit lazy to do that. Right, we're about to turn into the gate, so let's turn these lights off. Let's put the APU on the bus. We can also turn the APU bleed on. I always forget that these engines need quite a lot of throttle on the ground to actually get this aircraft moving. Not like the modern aircraft where normally in the A320 I'm shutting down an engine because otherwise it just runs away with you on idle power. Hey, look at that. Gate 7 is right where the Cape Town International Airport sign is. That's quite awesome. And Cape Town, because of the add-on scenery that we have, has the auto park or safe park, auto gate, whatever it's called, that will tell us exactly when to stop. And it has picked up, I don't know what that last number is, but it says 73 something. I think that is actually a 2. It's a 2 over a 0 somehow. Anyway, we can follow the signs there if we can not have this wall in front of it. 20 meters. This damn wall is gonna hide it. It's still 10 meters away. That's me advancing the throttles too far. And the plane is getting upset because we're not configured for takeoff. I'm not going to be able to see it because of the wall. 3, 2, 1, and it should be about there. Let's hope. Okay, poor design of Cape Town Airport. Cannot see. Does it say stop? Ah, look at that. Perfect. Is there 737-200 anywhere on the... No, there's a 7... That's a 787. 47... There's no 737. Oh, there it is. Boeing 737. We should have stopped way out there. What happened, bro? Anyway. We're on the APU. Let's shut down the engines. And we can then shut everything down. So, shutdown checklist. Seatbelt signs and no smoking can come off. Beacon light off. Exterior lights as required. We can turn off the position lights and the logo light, which we probably should have turned off sooner anyway. Start levers cut out. Parking brakes set. We're on the APU. Hydraulics can come off, which is these guys. Emergency exit lights can go off. APU we will shut down. All the fuel switches can come off. So APU bleed can come off. PACX we can turn off as well. All of those are already off. Yaw dampers off. Galley powers off. The last thing to do is the battery. And there we go. You can now smoke. Hey, because this is an old school aircraft, we allowed them to smoke during the flight, Dave. Because that's what they used to do on these planes in the 60s and the 70s. Right, let's get the Cape Town sign in there. There we go, Cape Town International Airport. Alright, that brings us to the end of the stream. Welcome to Cape Town International. It is early morning in the game. It's late evening. In the real, not late evening, it's night. What's it, 10:30 in the real world. But that brings us to the end. Must have been horrendous, yeah, the whole smoking thing. I don't know, a lot of people say that the air in the aircraft was actually cleaner then because they filtered it a lot more because of the smoke. Don't know how true that is. Anyway, that brings us to the end of the stream. Before I say goodbye, cue up the outro because I always forget. Right, thank you so much for tuning in. Dave, you're a champion. You can come back tomorrow evening again to watch more of my forehead, or maybe I'll fix my cap and wear it so you don't have to look at that. But thank you so much for tuning in. Always appreciate it. I will see you guys again soon. I'll be streaming again tomorrow. I have no idea what yet. I'll see what I feel like doing tomorrow when I get home from work. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you again soon.